Gibson's got a lot of competition these days, so I'm gonna put 3 guitars head to head today. And we're gonna decide once and for all in 2025, what's the best Les Paul to buy. Hey, it's John from Play and Trade Guitars. If you like new guitar reviews and informative buyer's guides, make sure you hit subscribe and join our community of guitar players. Thanks for being here. This is really my favorite Les Paul Standard 50s. It's got a beefy neck, a beautiful top, as you can see. Surely you know that Gibsons are made in America, and it's an iconic part of guitar culture to own a Gibson Les Paul Standard. But competition is heating up, and there are alternatives, including Gibson's very own Epiphone and Heritage, which are built out of the Kalamazoo, Michigan plant. In fact, the former Gibson plant. So I'm gonna put 3 guitars head to head today. They're at 3 different price points, and we're gonna decide once and for all in 2025, what's the best Les Paul to buy. I'm gonna tell you, stick with me to the end. If you're in the market for any of these guitars, click to buy new gear using my link. You'll find that down below or pinned in the comments. You can also scan this QR code if you're watching on a TV. Shop on your smartphone. Fast free shipping, easy payment plans, and you help me make these videos. Thanks for your support. All right, without further ado, let me run down these 3 guitars before I give you playing examples and a head-to-head performance, and then I'll tell you my absolute favorite of the 3. Now, like I said, I'm a little partial to this guitar because it's my personal Les Paul Standard 50s. Beautiful guitar, gloss nitrocellulose finish, mother of pearl Gibson logo with that iconic mustache or open book headstock from Gibson. Only Gibson, of course, can use Gibson on this headstock, although Epiphone is now putting the mustache headstock on their Les Pauls, which is nuts. It's got a rosewood fretboard with acrylic trapezoid inlays. As a typical Les Paul Standard, it's going to have a bound rosewood fretboard, mahogany neck. This is a thicker 50s profile. This one measures 0.89 at the first, up to 0.99 at the 12th. It's a good weight. This one is exactly 9 pounds, so it's comfortable to play. It's not too heavy. It sounds great unplugged, and it sounds excellent, I think, plugged in. But we're gonna put it head to head with cheaper alternatives and see what the real winner is in today's battle. Beautiful guitar. Let's take a look at the Epiphone. Here's the newly released 1959 reissue from Epiphone. Now right away, one thing you'll notice is it has these dazzling mother of pearl trapezoid inlays that the Gibson Les Paul Standard doesn't even have. It's got the iconic Gibson headstock, but it's not gonna be a mother of pearl Gibson logo, of course. It's gonna be an Epiphone logo on there. But otherwise, it's pretty dang close, isn't it? It's got these cool vintage style, Kluson style tuners or Epiphone Deluxe tuners, whatever you want to call them. And it's got a comfortable neck profile. This comes in a 57, 59, and 60. This is the 1959 reissue. So comfortable neck measuring 0.85 at the first, up to a 0.97 at the 12th. So kind of a perfect Goldilocks 59 neck profile. Beautiful piece of true rosewood. They were doing these with Laurel, no more. This is a rosewood fretboard with those mother of pearl inlays, which are absolutely beautiful. Headline here also is the custom buckers, $500 set of Gibson humbuckers made in America. These are American-made Gibson custom buckers, beautiful PAF style humbuckers that sound great. And otherwise, you've got a mahogany neck, mahogany body, maple cap. Now, this flame top is a veneer and it is a poly finish. So the poly has a different feel and sound than nitro. But I'll tell you, at the end of the day, this is a seriously competitive guitar, and it comes with a hard shell case at $12.99. That Les Paul Standard I showed you, that would cost you anywhere from $27.99 up to $29.99 if you want a figure top. So the fact that you're getting this with custom buckers, a mother of pearl inlay on an Indian rosewood fretboard with a hard shell case, pretty hard to argue with $12.99. But there's one more I want to show you. Before I show you the headstock, look at that beauty, because this is made in America. It's got a nitrocellulose finish, and look at the vibrant color on that cherry sunburst. This is Heritage. Yes, made in the former Gibson plant in Kalamazoo, Michigan, the same factory where they made those iconic bursts, including the 59 bursts that go for big, big bucks. As we all know, rosewood fretboard, acrylic trapezoid inlays. This is really comparable to a Les Paul Standard. Of course, they can't call it a Les Paul, and it doesn't have the Gibson headstock. In my last video on the H150, I was a little hurt and surprised by how little love the headstock design got for Heritage. I actually think it's a very iconic, very simple, straightforward, no-nonsense headstock design. But you can be the judge. Let me know in the comments what you think about the headstock, because let's face it, this guitar is under $2,000. This is $19.99 versus, again, $27.99 for the Gibson. But if I hold these side to side, you tell me in the comments, how much are you willing to pay for the Gibson name? Gibson means something incredible. You can let me know what you think. But there's nothing like a Gibson. Only a Gibson is good enough. as good enough as they say. But this Heritage is expertly put together, beautiful construction, bound fretboard, rosewood, beautiful sunburst with a nice character flame top. Again, the Epiphone's only gonna be a veneer, but that's at $12.99. This is a beautiful guitar for much less at $19.99. So having showed you all three of those, drop a comment and let me know what's your take so far, just visually, aesthetically, price-wise. What do you think the best deal going is for a Les Paul or Les Paul style guitar in today's market? I'll remind you again, if you're buying gear, shop for any new gear using my link. You help me make these videos. It's a win-win because you also get fast free shipping and the payment plans. I'm telling you, the payment plans are where it's at. Before I plug these in, I'll give you a quick rundown. First, looking at the Les Paul Standard 50s, $27.99 up to $29.99 if you want the premium flame top. Here's Tobacco Burst, Heritage Cherry Sunburst, and beautiful colors. There's also a huge custom color collection that gives you a whole bunch of other options for finishes, but you can check that out using my link. Now here's the Epiphone at $12.99, Deep Cherry Sunburst or a washed bourbon. It's gonna be that veneer top, but it's got high-end specs. This one came out of the box, the setup needed a little bit of work. It came a little bit high, the action, so I lowered that down and I tightened the truss rod a bit. So just expect it maybe to need a little bit of setup. But at $12.99 with a hard shell case, custom buckers, the works, including the Gibson open book headstock with the Epiphone logo, hard to argue with $12.99 nowadays, and wait till you hear it. The Heritage, I told you, $19.99, what a steal here. Cherry Sunburst, original Sunburst Ebony, you can click on the link for the other finishes, but this is a great made in America option compared to made in China on Epiphone. Nothing wrong with that, they make great guitars over at Epiphone, but Heritage is the side-to-side comparison if you want a made in America Les Paul Standard style guitar at much less the cost. So also you can check out the custom colors like I told you. I love the plain tops are actually cheaper at $25.99, so something like a sparkling burgundy. You can even check out, every now and then they've got an open box. Look at this, $21.99 for Pelham Blue, which is super cool. Now also, the other iterations of the Standard 50s is the Faded, which is a satin nitro finish instead of a gloss, and satin has a great playable, smooth kind of eggshell matte feel, which a lot of players love. And if you don't like the 50s neck, which is a thicker neck profile, you can of course check out all these guitars in the Les Paul Standard 60s. 60s will be a slimmer neck, 50s will be a thicker 50 style neck. That's the primary difference there between those. The Les Paul Standard 60s also has burst bucker 61s, which are some of my favorite burst buckers compared to the burst bucker 1 and 2s in the 50s. And one more thing, don't forget about P90s. Old school single coil pickups sound fantastic. You can get that $25.99 with the iconic gold top and P90s, super cool 50s look. And Heritage makes a similar guitar in $19.99, Heritage H150 P90 with Seymour Duncan P90s and Seymour Duncan 59s in the humbucker version of the H150 Heritage. So, all great options, and now it really comes down to what do they sound like. All right, let's get plugged in. I'll remind you, if you're in the market for any of these, click to buy new gear using my link. Let's get plugged in, hit subscribe so you can be in it to win it with this guitar. I'll see you on the other side for my raw, honest reactions. All right, what'd you think of all three guitars? I'm gonna tell you my favorite. But first, when I review a guitar, I break it down in three overall categories: overall sound, overall playability, and overall value. I can tell you that the Epiphone and Heritage, out of the gate, I can tell you smoked Gibson on value. Why? Because you have the Heritage for significantly less than the Les Paul Standard. No, it doesn't say Gibson. No, it doesn't have the Gibson headstock, but it's essentially a Les Paul Standard in every other sense of the word, and it's made in America. That guitar at $19.99 is a fantastic value, okay? It comes with the hard shell case, comes with the Seymour Duncan 59s. It's a great playing, great sounding guitar, and it's every bit as competitive as a Gibson Les Paul Standard. From a sound and playing standpoint, there's some people that might even prefer the Heritage, but in either case, it's a value win. And then I think the runaway value winner here has got to be the Epiphone, because if you needed a Les Paul style guitar in the studio or on stage and you only wanted one and you needed it to be more affordable, the Epiphone is going to do everything that these other two guitars did. You know, it kind of breaks my heart to say this because I love my Gibson Les Paul Standard, but would I sell my Gibson Les Paul Standard and have my Epiphone instead? There are reasons I would make the case for that. One reason is just the worry factor. I love my Gibson Les Paul Standard 50s. Sometimes I don't find myself bringing it out and playing it as often because I'm worried about breaking the headstock or I'm worried about it getting stolen. And here's the thing about an Epiphone at $12.99. It's got everything in terms of the sounds and playability. It's even got a more comfortable medium neck. The neck on my Les Paul Standard 50s is really pretty beefy. And that's fine with me, but you get this super comfortable neck in the 59. If you want a thicker neck in the Epiphone, just get the 57, the 1957 reissue instead of the 59. But you know, we already said Epiphone smoked on value, but there's other considerations. There's things like not having to worry. If I'm flying with a guitar, if I'm traveling with it, I feel a little bit more like I can sleep at night traveling with an Epiphone, especially when I know it's going to play and sound as good as a Gibson, potentially. And you can be the judge of that. You let me know if it sounded as good or, shoot, maybe even better than the Gibson. You can tell me that in the comments. And so that's value. So runaway value winners, Heritage and Epiphone is the runaway value champion here in terms of what you're getting for a Les Paul, okay? No denying. When it comes to playability, I told you about the neck shapes, and that's going to be the primary difference. There's nothing about any three of these guitars which would make a significant difference in terms of overall playability. You will notice the different feel of a poly finish on Epiphone compared to Nitro. And the Nitro gloss finish has it has a great feel, but it shouldn't stick. But I mean, if you rub your hand down a Nitro neck compared to poly, there's gonna be a little bit different feel. And if you're used to poly, Nitro may feel like it sticks a little bit more. But look, that's the premium old school stuff that's used at Gibson. And it's part of the package if you want a true legendary Les Paul Standard, right? Poly versus Nitro. But really playability, there's not a terrible difference. I'll tell you the Epiphone was actually heaviest. The Epiphone was just under 10 pounds, whereas my Les Paul Standard 50s was right at 9 pounds, so super comfortable weight. But then when we come to sounds, and this is really where it becomes difficult, I will tell you that the custom buckers that they put in the Epiphone are just absolutely fantastic. It is really hard to argue with these pickups. They just do sound that good, and if you like a vintage vibe, vintage tone, exactly what you'd want out of a 1959 reissue, they put the same pickups that they would put in the Gibson Custom Shop R9. So Epiphone is doing something serious. Gosh, it makes you wonder how Gibson feels about Epiphone basically putting their headstock on the guitar and putting these custom buckers in there. But they're giving you a deal. I mean, they're swinging for the fences and, you know, they're hitting a home run with this guitar. Now, when it comes to sound, which was my favorite? I will tell you, I love the safe route Heritage goes with of using Seymour Duncan 59s. Just right down the middle, perfect PAF set. They have kind of a compressed singing quality to them. I love Seymour Duncan 59s. If you want an all-purpose PAF style humbucker that's not super expensive, that's really well made and sounds fantastic, Seymour Duncan 59s, don't tear your hair out trying to figure out the pickup world, just go and get those. And that's what Heritage said. They're like, look, we're building beautiful guitars. We're not gonna necessarily build pickups in-house, although their custom shop does. But for the standard models over at Heritage, you're using the Seymour Duncan 59s, perfect pairing for a Les Paul. Love those pickups. And those sound great. The custom buckers are a more premium set of pickups, and that's in the Epiphone guitar for significantly less money. I love what they're doing in the Gibson USA Les Paul Standards. The Les Paul Standard 50s with the burst buckers, I'll tell you, I actually prefer the Burstbucker 61s, which are in the Les Paul Standard 60s with the slimmer neck. In fact, our giveaway guitar, which you can win by subscribing, make sure you're subscribed, has those Burstbucker 61s, which just sound fantastic. Alnico 5 versus Alnico 2, a little bit hotter, modern driving sound. But my 50s here, I love the style of this guitar. I love the way it sounds. And I can't argue, but I can't tell you that it sounded like so significantly better that the Epiphone just gets booted, you know, because it's just not true. I mean, the Epiphone held its own easily with this guitar, and this guitar costs significantly more money, as we know, right? So should I sell my Gibson to get an Epiphone? If I was traveling a lot with a Les Paul, let's say this, if I wasn't gonna sell this, I would be comfortable leaving this at home and touring with the Epiphone. Why? Because it does everything that a Les Paul is supposed to do with less worry. It's consistently built well. It just needs some setup out of the box typically. And then I could just sleep at night with a great sounding Les Paul. I can leave my cherished 50s, which I will never get rid of. To tell you the truth, I never really want to sell this guitar. And I'd feel better leaving it at home and using it in the studio, taking the Epiphone out to be the workhorse Les Paul. That's kind of a great deal and a great value proposition all around, isn't it? So I'm impressed with all three of these guitars. It was fun to put them head to head and see really, you know, there still are sonic differences that you can note, and drop a comment and tell me what you noticed about all three. They all sounded great. I'm runaway value winners, Heritage. But you know, you can tell me if you like that headstock. If you need the Gibson headstock, Epiphone's even giving you the headstock now, $12.99. Incredible guitar that is. However, as many people also point out, long-term value of a Gibson, made in America, part of the legacy of American guitar building, going way back with Gibson. It's hard to argue with owning the real thing if you can do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I would look at the Epiphone as a workhorse that I'd take out and play. But for a prized possession, an heirloom, something that you can hand down, something that could potentially climb in value with time, for resale value, for investment value, if you even want to talk about that down the road, it's hard to argue that a made in America Gibson USA, there's a reason they say only a Gibson is good enough, right? And if you're gonna buy a Gibson, the payment plans, you can spread out the payments over time, no interest payments. It's not even a credit card, it's just a payment plan. It makes buying a Gibson super easy. So use my link if you're buying any gear. Keep me in mind, use that link because it does support this channel and you get the fast free shipping and easy payment plans. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any new guitar reviews on the channel, and thanks for hanging out today. It's been a fun look at these Les Pauls, and I really enjoyed playing all three. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the three. Epiphone, runaway winner for value, but Gibson Les Paul Standard is the standard of standards, which is gonna hold its own for many years to come in terms of value. So keep that in mind. Heritage, if you want to just go right down the middle and get an incredible made in America guitar for less money, can't go wrong with Heritage either. All right, until next time, it's John for Play and Trade Guitars. See you next time and keep playing.